final game of GSL groups is upon us. 4 teams already invited to the playoffs. 3 teams have now joined them through that group system. We've got one still yet to be determined in this Xenon Gaming Series Spring Burst. I'm Time to Light. Joining alongside me here is Clemson. Mason, all is on the line and all riding on one BO3.
It's going to be the end of the season for some of these teams, one of these teams or the others. We look at our bracket, how we got here in Group A. Osiris taking Outlast out early on, and that knocked him into the lower bracket where they were able to fortunately defeat Temper, who were defeated by SBL in a banger match that Spiff ended up actually getting the kill record in Xenon at 24 and 11 overall. After that, Osiris made their way through into playoffs. SBL obviously lost that match, and now we have a decider best of 3 between Outlast and Team SBL. Both really solid teams, both rosters which have impressed me. A lot of experience garnering that SBL side, but on the Outlast roster, a younger roster, a roster that, yes, some of these players have experience and playtime together, but a couple don't. And seeing how that they've gelled and meshed so far has been rather impressive, looking at how coordinated they seem and how they flow in their executes so far early on.
I gotta say, this is not only my favorite format, I love GSL groups, but it's my favorite way I've ever seen a GSL group bracket visualized. So shout out whoever made that bracket graphic. I mean, it's always been confusing.
Probably Andrew, but don't give him credit. Don't give him
right, that was terrible.
That guy's terrible.
It looks awful. Yeah,
absolute me. He's yelling at us in our ear, but all the BS aside, right? I mean, both these teams very solid, impressive to watch, but only one of them get to move on through. Let's go take a look at these rosters so that we can figure out who are participating for either side. For Team SBL, Poison, Rice, Nick, Asian, Spiff. 3 of these members have been in Pro League before, 2 of them very vetted in the Tier 2 scene. Nick obviously being a part of one of the later Karn & Co rosters. There's a really solid team overall. Lots of talent across the side. A very aggressive roster, but also one that learns how to push and pull based on that IGLing by Poison. And also just really good supportive play from Rice as well.
You know, when Poison tweeted out that he was leaving Aerial Arise, I was just about as shocked as everybody else. He's been with Aerial Arise since, I think, the dawn of me casting in the Tier 3/Tier 4 scene. And it's a shock to see him move, but I feel like it's probably for the best, especially with a team of this caliber, even playing in the open system, while there's a lack of open opportunities down the line in terms of points from last chance qualifiers into majors. They could very well take an opportunity into an LCQ straight into SI, if not straight into a major itself. So I love the roster they've put together. Assuming none of these players get picked up in the next week or so before the actual NAL starts, I'd be very surprised if that's the case, but here's a very good proving ground for them to show what they've got under a fairly new environment, or at least a fresh environment from the new to the old, from what was the past.
Yeah, I'm excited to hopefully watch this team continue to grow as the tide turns, but let's turn the page over and see their opponent in Outlast Gaming. Of course, Outlast has gone through many rosters by this time of day, but some of these names are rather familiar if you remember the HK Rebels banner that Austin, Vipoa, and Rai all played under. Yuv and Zonky as the latest additions to that core HK Rebels old roster that have been together for what seems like forever. It seems like Austin and Vipoa just never leave each other's side. Austin, formerly known as Burnt Turkey, by the way, if you were wondering. Because he's changed his name. And then Rai as well has been around the block for quite a while. It seems a fun team to watch. They really take their time and they take their stride, but they were also really good against aggressive teams. One of the matches I was watching, which was Outlast versus Osiris, Outlast was very solid against them when they were able to deny those picks, and they were doing a pretty solid job overall of denying that main entry early on in the aggressive playstyle from Osiris. So I'm expecting Outlast to be a pretty good roster contending against what's going to be an aggressive team in SBL today.
Here's your direct comparison, at least for this individual matchup. Spiff versus Yuv. You said it, the KD from the matches looking a little bit better for Spiff. I believe you said it, he's only played in one of their 2 games, and that 24 and 11 is just applicable to one game. You would have thought he went 12-5 and 12-6 and been done with it. That would be reasonable to assume through 2 best of ones. You'd unfortunately be wrong. Yuv's gone 30 and 32. Nothing to scoff at by any means, but I feel like slightly different roles between them is something to consider here. Spiff has not played as much entry compared to Yuv, and Yuv's played, twice as many games. So I don't know. It's weird to compare two different roles while they have extremely similar stats in terms of everything other than entry. But I feel like that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I feel like I see both of these players, and the reason why I wanted to compare them is that they're both key players to their roster. I feel like Yuv is one of those sleeper agents that can be very good, but noticing that very high entry death stat is concerning for me. And if Outlast won a chance of taking down SBL tonight, he has to be the one that steps up and denies the entry, especially from the really, really solid players on the backside of SBL. I mean, Asian obviously has been known as a rather solid gunner in his time, and there's many other shooters like Nick and Poison. Well, Poison you might not be able to give the shooter tag, but he's got his other wits that he's very good at. Not to dog on the guy, I love him to death. But Spiff, obviously very good shooter. Asian, Nick, that whole side, Rice even will get in on the action, right? So being able to deny that entry, deny those picks early on, and living more in these rounds might help Outlast find themselves further into this match than maybe some people might expect.
Taking a look at the teams, we've taken a look at some of the individuals on the teams. Let's take a look at where these teams will be playing. Spoiler alert, not Oregon or Cafe or Club. I am the most thrilled person to see a map ban like this. I'm a big fan of that pick of Nighthaven. Border is last. Chalet is a good opener. It gives us a very nice litmus test of the series. If I was to draw up a dream of a map ban veto phase kind of thing, basically it would be this minus maybe Border, put it in Consulate because I like Consulate. I like chaos.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good map pool overall for both these teams. I will say that Chalet, I would argue, is going to be cited towards SBL. I think that that's why they've picked in this map. I think that they're very strong on it. But Outlast were able to defeat their opponents in Temper yesterday on Nighthaven Labs. So there is some VOD that's fresh, but not very, I guess, in the system, right? So if SBL hasn't been able to get online and watch that VOD over the last 24 hours or so, there hasn't been much prep work that they can really establish themselves in for this match. But on the side of Outlast, they should be well prepared because of SBL's match, which happened a few days ago. And it was at least one of their games was on Chalet against, oh boy, my brain's gonna hurt, against X Osiris. They played in that promotion game again on Chalet, and they were pretty solid overall. I was really impressed with what we saw from SBL, but they just fell a little bit short in the end. So I'll be curious to see how the two teams clash against each other because they have very different play styles, but they like to push and pull. Both teams will make the adjustments as they need, and it's just really going to be a game of who can adjust for each other better in the end.
Also one of those who has the more quick adjustment, maybe not the better adjustment. Sometimes you need that speed rather than the accuracy, usually the accuracy over long-term, speed over the short-term. Brava being banned out here, not too surprising, but still notable. I'm very surprised that Dokubi is not banned out here on Chalet because of the, we'll say, more prevalent alerts.
How strong she is.
Yeah, and she's broken. When I start playing an operator more common than I play any others on the attacking side, you know you've got a problem. And then a zombie and Solus on the defense. Wow, I'm very shocked. I can't believe it. Yeah.
But Fenrir is up, and I will argue that Fenrir is a very impactful operator with that Brava ban on the board. That's almost going to make him even more potent because that's one less operator you have to be able to get rid of some of those gadgets. I do like the Brava ban, though, because that's going to allow Maestro to get played a lot more on Chalet. He's very solid on this kitchen dining site, and he can be useful in other bomb sites, maybe like Bar or Master Bedroom, where you could hide those Maestro camps down below or above and play for vertical with them. You don't see it as often, but it is something that can be done in theory. But going here to kitchen dining, Maestro definitely a very strong operator on this site. You've got the Mira, Fenrir, a Doc, which is kind of a rare pick. You don't typically see someone bringing a Doc here at this level of play, but maybe Rai's got a plan, more than likely just to help aid and hold those long angles up on the top floor. And then you've got Yuv running the castle, trying to deny many of those lines of sights that SBL, well, I assume, try to establish. And when I remember going back and watching SBL on Chalet, they really like a good solar presence. So expect them to be aggressive on the solar windows, on the highway windows, maybe trying to force their way up West Main Stairs and trying to subvert this main lobby side of presence in Rome and instead just work through the backside.
thing I've noticed about a couple teams, at least recently, is bringing in Doc because Doc's picking up an ACOG in the new patch in just a week's time plus a couple days. And teams want to bring the Doc down the line, so they're starting to institute him into their comp before the patch comes through, so they're prepared for that down the line. I like that pre-preparedness. It does throw things off a little bit while he's not as strong. Again, doesn't have the ACOG, but that's really the only change they're bringing to him. But as of right now, SBL not doing anything absurd in their attack. A lot of these you're seeing is more default operators. I do feel the 417 on Rice is a little surprising. I've seen people run the V308 more than the other, but you gotta say, it's still SBL more than happy to take the 417. And that only DMR, considering Dokubi's not banned. They're not keeping it. Also, if I pose very lucky to be alive, then the DMR's just shot at them, and they're dead. Where did he die from? Big window?
Ooh, he almost got out. It was actually all the way from rappel on that main snow balcony, but you takes down Spiff, our direct player comparison, the first two members to actually get themselves tucked into an engagement. I think that's going to be the key of this round. If you was able to stay on top of their entry picks and keep themselves alive deeper in these rounds, you'll see Outlast succeed a lot against an SBL roster, which is rather aggressive, like to hold angles that are kind of up and in your face. And you can see they've slowly made their way in through library. The issue is Asian's taking quite a bit of damage. Nick not really done too much with those Rotero drones, and Spiff being dead. There's not much that SBL have to gain with how much time is left in the round.
No, and Outlast is more than comfortable. Remember, playing that Doc, if I pose at full HP, has been since they were picked up and retrieved from the DBNO position. You should have a sound cue that there's a run out over towards that K9 window, or K9 door, sorry. And there is. Selma being broken on the door, and just an immediate play from Poison on top of his own hard breach. He finds an opening with it, and there's space for SBL and a way back into the round.
That's where I think you've just stayed home for too long, trying to be way too aggressive, way too forward. When you get that opening pick, back up, play deeper, because the other team eventually is going to be playing in a 5-on-3 if they are trying to go for the plant. It seems like SBL are prized on trying to take the rest of this top floor control. Rice will work their way in through bathroom, but get blinded by one of those FNAP mines, and now has to try to work a pick. 30 seconds left on the clock for SBL, and Rai dusts Rice. Nick, sitting outside the trophy window, might try to find an avenue of entry, and Poison going to try to get this really, really late refrag. The issue is Rai is prepared and gets the swing of the kill, and Nick last alive on trophy window. Really nothing he can do in this situation other than wait out the timer, because the case isn't even in his own arms. Maybe he can pad his stats, but other than that, it's a really solid defensive effort out of Outlast for round number 1.
I gotta say, very big fan of that swing principle for Rai. What he does is he waits until Poison's right there and thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to fully clear this corner. He's not gonna move. He's gonna force me to fully dedicate myself to this corner. And then Rai's just like, oh yeah, peekaboo, and proactively swing.
Smokes him.
No, yeah, he's just not expecting that. If you swing that earlier, 5 seconds earlier, when you're still a little bit of a ways away, you're expecting a swing. But once you get that close, you're thinking to yourself internally, I'm going to fully clear this corner. He's going to be in the corner. And then as soon as you get swung, you're just not prepared for it. It's a little bit of a mind game inside of a gunfight, and that's just half the battle. Outlast take the first round, and on a site that took SBL forever to fully clear, they had just barely cleared that top floor, at least mostly, with about 20, 30 seconds left, maybe. And even then, they were still losing a couple gunfights. They hadn't even extended all the way over to the far side of Master Bedroom. And there's just no way you can fully clear that position, then think to yourself, oh, I need to take time to open up the site itself, and try to set up a drop of the hatch while having a player on the trophy window for some reason. There were a lot of things that were just not going right for SBL, but it's a learning round. It's also something they could take away and say, hey, we have lost it, yes, but maybe we've warmed up a little bit, and they've made some, we'll say, proper swaps. Poison going on to the Montaigne. Just write the round off already.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and
that's in a good way. Poison is good on the Montaigne.
I agree. I know what you were going for there, and some of the viewers may not have quite caught that. But yes, Poison is a very good informative player. Putting him on a shield that literally just cannot die unless you put yourself in a terrible position, which I think Poison I think of Poison as a very smart player, very high IQ, especially in that T3, T2 scene. And I don't imagine him getting himself in that many ugly positions. Back when he was on that Vipers roster, maybe I would think otherwise, because they were just so aggressive
That's a throwback.
as that team. But I will say that here, under SBL at least, I think that this is a good fit. I think that the Monty is going to be a solid pick, as long as you're able to set up your teammates with proper kills. One person I want to talk about setting up, we're highlighting him here, Spiff. I think that Spiff, the reason why you saw him get 24 kills in Oregon, you know he's a talented player, he's very good, but you have to enable him, and him hopping into a window that Rai conveniently drops the hatch at just the right time. It's unfortunate, but there's a lack of information game on the side of SBL, which is why Rai was able to steal away that pick on a Spiff. It's nice, though, that Rice is there in position to get that eventual refrag. It comes a little bit late, but it does get traded out regardless. The issue is Spiff 0-2. Not a great start to the match for someone who, in his previous time playing, in round number 1, dropped 24.
Yeah, you also have to say that everybody has a different thought of what is delayed information or what is now useless information. The general rule of thumb is anywhere between 5 and 15 seconds. If that information was there, it is now completely useless, and you could just pretend it was new.
Even less. Info and Siege really only lasts for like 2 seconds. That's
where I'm going with that. They had a drone at the top floor, and they were trying to send in Spiff to clear out that Fenrir. And yet, 2-3 seconds later, he's dropped, he set himself in position, and he's holding the angle you're looking to walk through. That's the principle. It's so difficult to get reliable information unless it is immediate and as of that moment accurate, which makes things more problematic for SBL. Granted, yes, they do find the refrag, but now with 50 seconds left, this time's looking a lot better for them. Oh no. Missed canister. And you're going to want that Zoto back.
So tragic. Because as you said, Dan, I mean, if he has that extra Zoto canister, you can keep that wall closed all the way down to the last 15 or so seconds.
Yeah.
And it would absolutely punish SBL. It's an issue that they had in their last match of just taking so long on their executes. But now they've got 20 seconds to at least get inside. Poison will walk on the player inside a pillar, but Bipoa wins out their engagement.
What?
And takes off the head of Poison. You gotta be kidding me. There's no way the Warden's allowed to get away with it. And all of a sudden, Outlast, clean house. They find the last 2 bodies and take a swift 2-0 lead to start off our match.
I still want to know where the shield was. How in the world does he hit his head there? It was still up in front of his face.
It's gotta be the best shot ever. I mean,
barring
barely.
clipping, or the fact that Monty put on 190 pounds since the last time I played him. There's no way that hits his face. I'm sorry. That was a great shot. Like, kudos to him if it does indeed land. But from our perspective, Poison has to be yelling in his team speak call. Because there is no verifiable way that shield was not in full frontal position of his forehead.
I would feel the exact same way. I know how Poison feels because I've had many a times where I've played either Montaigne or Blitz or whatever the case may be, where I've literally got the shield in front of my face and I still die while staring at someone. I mean, it's
did you see the
dumb.
Twitter clip from TrevMac?
I think I have seen what you're talking about.
This was like yesterday or earlier today. He's playing Border. He swings from catwalk and square. He takes a shot, gets behind a wall, and like maybe 0.2 of a second later gets killed, and he starts slamming in his desk and yells, "I was behind the wall!" That's got to be Poison right now.
Yeah, unfortunately the way that shields work in the game right now, and I hope that with the new shield rework that maybe some of this will change, but there's just times where you shouldn't be exposed and you actually are, or vice versa, where you should be exposed and you aren't.
Yeah.
It could just be due to impact lag, delay, or whatever the case is. I'm not smart with all that coding stuff, because otherwise that's probably what I'd be doing. But I will say that it's really frustrating when you are a shield player and a very solid shield player like Poison is, to have that happen.
I do want to note that probably would not have changed around. If Poison even is able to scope in there, he probably dies to a headshot regardless, or if he tries to get off a couple shots, they probably do negligible body damage, and he doesn't win the fight. So that fight individually did not decide the round, but it's certainly a momentum killer if there was any for SBL coming into this game, and Outlast is more than happy to take it in stride, because SBL just has not found all that much. Again, losing the opening kill battle. We were talking about it earlier, Spiff is 0 for 2 in his fights. He's got an assist, and that's it, because he was traded in the previous round. This is just not looking particularly good early on. And now, bar defense, and SBL still hasn't even entered the building, except for bathroom. I don't think Austin's aware of it. He has absolutely no clue. Asian has the freest kill I have ever seen, as long as he does not get tripped by that goo mine. And there's the freest opening in the history of Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, Asian just kind of got fed a free one. I mean, really, there's nothing else he can say. inserted himself nicely into bathroom, and the Legion there so late had no idea that there was an Ash simply right behind him. And I think that that's a key moment, again, for SBL, where they're able to get the opening pick, and now they have to transition this into a round win. It's the first opening pick that they have this map. They definitely need to get themselves on the board. An aggressive walk-up, Spiff inside of that main top mezzanine, and gets the kill onto Zonky. That forces Vipoa to back off as Nick gets in on the action, taking down Rai. 60 seconds left. Vipoa finds one with the Sheriff. No way, not the Sheriff, but the Keratos. Ends up getting one. You've will get a headshot on the Poison, so Outlast pull back a couple of picks, but still SBL have plenty of time. They can play vert, and they should have plenty of drones for information on these remaining defenders in the site.
Yeah, but with 45 seconds, time starts to favor the defensive side. SBL was really forcing them out of position. Great impact. Asians now on basically 1 health against the AUG or the MP7. And Vipoa repositioning. This has thrown off the rotations of SBL entirely. It was, remember, a 2 versus 5. And yet, a couple kills and repositions Vipoa. Oh no, moves at the worst possible time. It leaves Juve in a 1 versus 3. One directly above him, the other 2 starting to encroach on the site itself. And the sound cue should be there. He's going to swing. He should also make noise in the process. No easy way in nor out of this round, and he's forced himself back up to the top of the stairs where he has no easy access to the site itself. He'll walk in, most likely into a blender, 1 player at the bar, 1 inside of gaming, and the round should end shortly thereafter. Yeah, he'll find absolutely nothing. Spiff will indeed get on the board as well in terms of kills. There we go from SBL. Couple kills to turn over, but nothing consequential against them.
I love the take from SBL. I mean, they took their time, they inserted themselves, they got the opening pick, and they were efficient enough. And yeah, you could argue that maybe they had a little bit of a lapse of focus or concentration in that mid-round to end-round transition where they had full top floor control. They lost 2 bodies rather quickly and add that 3 versus 2 rather than the 5 versus 2. But still, I think that that just is a matter of rotation. And when you are up that many bodies, you get a little bit confident. You might make a mistake or two. It does happen. However, I will say that Outlast did a good job of trying to bounce back in that round. There just wasn't much that they could do. And now they get to go back to Dining and Kitchen where they were successful once before. And I don't know if that'll be the case this time around. I don't think they're going to be able to be easily as successful because Spiff got slapped off of that rappel angle from outside mezzanine window all the way deep in through Ivy, right? So I don't imagine that that's going to be the case, but I think that if you're able to enable Spiff properly, as Team SBL did back in round number 1 when they had him on the board and available, I think that they should be able to leverage that control and the cutoff angles that he's been able to hold on his own end, especially back when they played Oregon. And I'm referencing that a lot because it's number 1, the only game that Spiff has played with this team. But also, it was just an incredible work of art of how good a player can be when they're put in the proper positions to be successful and how good Spiff can capitalize on that. And I think that that's going to be key to SBL's success in this match. Outlast on the other end, they're doing solid. Vipoa is a player who I feel like we've not seen a lot out of him lately, especially in this season of FGS, where we just haven't quite seen him be the normal Vipoa that we see, right? Vipoa, I always imagine and envision as a shooter, but has been rather quiet as of late. So for him to start off this map at 5-1 already is really exciting to see, really good to see, and hopefully he's back in its true form.
One thing we are seeing as a swap for SBL is an important one, I think. Grim for Poison, first time we're seeing it. They're also running 2-5-5-2 commandos. Inconsequential stat, but it's like an ESPN type stat for you. It's SBL kind of needing to have the early information. Again, last time we saw this site, it took them forever and a day just to find entries into the top floor, and they just couldn't develop past that because it was too long. Now they have many more opportunities of finding that early information with the Bees, and more importantly, setting themselves up. As we talked about it, Spiff needing to be set up for a lot of frags. That's an opportunity to do so. You can bounce off the 5 Kawan launchers and have info. Rai kind of out of position here, virtually isolated on Solarium stairs, has very little help at that same juncture. A drone here would be nearly perfect, but Rai will shoot it immediately. So the lack of information could cost them. And remember, this started with about a minute 20, maybe, or sorry, a minute 50 on the clock. Them trying to clear this out of position. Yeah, they have the info that Rai's here, but what are they going to do about it?
I have a feeling Rai is going to get real uncomfortable real soon. I think that Poison's going to continue to grim this player here on the Solar Series as he does fire off another one of those Kaiwan canisters. And I think that Asian or someone with flashbangs is going to try to stun dump this player on the stairs, but it's Austin to get the opening pick on to Asian. Nick, though, with a refrag rather swiftly, so at least the damage is minimalized. The Sophia of Rice has hopped inside a trophy. There's good control here for SBL, and the response has to come through from Outlast. Zonky gets a nice shot on a spiff, a rare whiff out of him, but with 30 seconds left and really good positioning still here out of SBL, how do Outlast respond? They still have vertical control, but Vipoa gets shut down. Rice knows that there's a defender somewhere in sight, and they're able to find the pick. You from above might be able to do the damage needed. You can just barely see the head of Poison. He'll wait until the last second, tap away at the head, and now SBL have to run. They have to figure out where that kill happened from, and now his position has been revealed. He'll run down the somewhere stairs. Nick will get that diffuser down with good cover from Rice as Juve rotates down the somewhere stairs. Rice takes the swing, finds the kill. Very well done by SBL as they find the proper gap inside of Trophy, and Outlast just could not help their anchors on site enough from the top floor positions to leverage a round win.
We're talking about the playstyles at the top of the show, and that was the best descriptor of each of them. SBL, again, take forever to clear out an individual position, but it's still winter, and they know it, especially on the West Coast. They just snowballed it. Straight from the opening pick, directly thereafter taking out the Maestro, making sure they had so much freedom on and around the site, and Outlast just had to panic to try to recover. The one thing is Juve doesn't, and Juve doesn't help his team in the process. Yes, he finds an individual kill, yes, he delays the diffuser and gives himself a reasonable opportunity in a 1v2. The problem was, he still didn't have the greatest of positions to capitalize on that reasonable 1v2 after the first kill, so nothing done after the individual frag onto the attempted plant. SBL tie things up, and now with a little bit of momentum, and knowing what they've done wrong on this site as well, they have yet to lose a site twice. So, maybe that development will help them carry that follow-up momentum into a bottom floor successful win.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
Poison, back on the Monty. Hopefully it fares better this time around.
Hopefully the shield just functions.
Just getting smacked. Yeah, hopefully the shield actually works, and like, you know, Blackbeard's shield, where it's just like, yeah, it's there, but is it really there? That kind of whole ordeal. Tell you what though, it is still more frustrating than ever to face off against a Blackbeard, because like they'll still live against shots. If you have like good enough reaction time, or the person playing Blackbeard has good enough reaction time, it's still pretty strong. It's just he's kind of slow and clunky and not very much fun to play, because you kind of just have to be like an angle holder and have good reaction. But it does net free kills sometimes on those cutoff angles. Anyway, trailing back into the round here on basement. Seems like a full clear is in effect here by SBL. You've got Asian working that top floor, trying to work their way into office, and you've got just players all over the place. I mean, if you look at the map, you see pretty much the whole map lit up in blue in different positions. I think Asian's going to work their way in through office, try to deny the kitchen hatch, while the rest of his team works their way in down below. Poison as well, actually doubling up for this roam clear. They're going rather lazy about it, though. I don't know if they've droned any of this, or if they're just running through it. Seems like they have all the information. I don't know why Poison would just run through this all willy-nilly otherwise, but I'm shocked to see that Outlast is completely abandoned dining a kitchen, and that SBL have this much control. This seems unfair, unrealistic. There's no world that they should have all of this map control in Chalet in just a minute and a half. There's got to be some Godplex retake imagined here by Outlast.
It's either that, or if I'm looking at this correctly, the entirety of the south side of the map has been north side of the map has fully been cleared. Alongside the entire first floor, the extent of control is blue stairs, and each site along with connector. That is everything for the Outlast defense, which their extension has been a pivotal part of their game thus far, delaying SBL, but now with a minute and change, a C4 thrown out, one of those Zoto canisters as well, make it a second now as they have to expend yet another piece of utility, and they're starting to run out of it. A single C4, maybe a Goyo canister or two, things are becoming dire for the Outlast defense, or in this case, the lack thereof.
Vipoa gets shut down by Spiv, starting to wake up, starting to spark up on the shots. As time continues to trickle down, SBL will make their move. Poison marches on into the site. Zonky, though, with the refrag onto Asian. Poison will drop the shield, but gets back on. Spiff Finds one, but the C4 kills his own teammate. Austin, what are you doing? Zaki was in such a good position there, but maybe Austin will just win the round back. Maybe he said,
What?
I don't need you, Zaki. I'll do it my goddamn self. As he gets 2 huge picks. Poison still forced on the shield. The flank from the Fed rear. Where is Rice for the help? He gets dropped. Poison finds Austin, but he has to stick the plant. Rai should easily win this round. He'll drop down.
Wait.
But can he get to the Monty
Oh, no.
in time? The bomb goes down, and now all Poison has to do is keep the shield up and play keep away with his own life. Rai will try to push the issue all the way deep into connector. He can't find a way around. Can he potentially bait Poison into one of the Goyle canisters? But Poison's doing a masterful job.
What?
Line, but Rai gets the edge. He finds his way around, gets the melee, and gets the counter defuse. What a round by Outlast. What a chaotic round. I mean, what the hell happened?
I cannot believe that just a single TCSG Goyo ends up turning that into a reasonable round to bring it back. Outlast's defensive side just steps up in a big way. And to start, remember, it just did not look good. Austin C4ing his teammate and then making up for it afterwards, saying, hey, you said it, I don't need you, I'll do it myself. And now SBL had the most concerted advantage I think we've had either team pick up thus far this game, except for the pseudo-saved 1v4 in round number 1. And yet, they basically toss it away off of 2 nice headshots and a missed flank because nobody was watching their flank drones. They had the entirety of the map, except for blue. And ironically enough, blue ended up being the rotate over to kitchen, into dining, that spelled the end of their cover, and then the subsequent end to their Montaigne. That is an insane way to close out what could have been SBL pivoting into a possible lead at the half, and instead of a max 4-2 in their favor, they could very well go 4-2 down. That's a 2-round swing they cannot afford in a game like this.
Oh, wow. I mean, I needed a moment to breathe and recover from that round. There was so much that happened. I thought that Poison for sure had it in the bag, but unfortunately, when you are in that 1v1 as a Monty and you know that there's other gadgets around that might punish you if you get and step into them, then I don't know.
How does it take him an hour and a half to
difficult.
try and start shooting Austin? That's my question.
Yeah.
Austin's just not looking at him again, finds 2 kills, and then he
But then
unsheaths
again, that's one of the situations where it feels like it might just have been a better play out of Austin, right? Like maybe he just made
yeah,
the
100%.
best shots of his life to get those kills. I mean, you saw some of those kills, right? And sometimes Siege boils down into that. That's what makes Siege, I feel like, so special, is that you might have all the info. You might have someone dead to rights, and that person could still win a gunfight because they have either a lapse of just greatness in their aim or in some sort of talent, or they've found a way to use a gadget or something that ends up getting them a pick, right? That's just the nature of Rainbow Six Siege. That's why we all love this game, is because there's moments like that, what we just watched there, which can't happen in any other FPS. I mean, truthfully, it just doesn't.
Throwing frag grenade.
Well, a completely different landscape of this first map now, and one that Team SBL, they're in dire straits around. They've lost that opening game. Now in this one, 2 minutes gone, they've done, we'll say, basically nothing. There's still a C4 available. Yeah, they've started to clear out the top floor, but it's much more dire than they'd like. You close in the K9 door. He'll lose that fight, be dispatched of by Spiff, and now there's a virtual way in. Spiff almost fights a second there, also almost got his head taken off. But with 50 seconds left, SBL are in a point where they just have to build off of what they've already picked up, and in the last 15 seconds, they've taken one gunfight that has proved for absolutely nothing.
30 seconds left. Asian's made his way in above, trying to lock down this player on the master bed. He's stuck and tucked in, but SBL have gone for the full send. All 5 members working this top floor. Vipoa finds Rice, but it's Asian to get the quick refrag, and now Poison taking matters into his own hands, takes down Rai above. Zonky maybe looking for a late flank or just trying to work their way in through 45. It is Zonky who will run up blue. Austin still in sight. He gets dusted by Spiff. And where has the Fenrir gone? There's someone waiting for him with the wide open arms. It's Asian inside a piano, taking down the Fenrir, reading into that flank beautifully with the drones and information set up by SBL. And they take another round win, leading us into the half at 3 apiece.
Spiff's like, fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, you won't. He just watches the Fenrir walk up blue stairs again, albeit it's the second floor blue stairs rather than the first. But you try the exact same thing round after round. Yeah, you hopefully will expect the exact same result, but when it's just worked to completely change the landscape of a round, you're not going to have it work in consecutive. So, valiant effort, but an unsuccessful one nonetheless. SBL tying things up. Now they've got some level of confidence building into their defensive side. They're also bringing in some similar thought processes in terms of their defensive operator selection as well. The only notable difference I want to bring up here is Rice pulling off the mute. And I like it. They're completely circumventing the Mira, which honestly was an okay selection for Outlast, but not game-defining by any means. You keep the C4, and make sure you have some level of wall denial as well, forcing out some utility usage or possible drone usage, in Zonky's case with that glitch. And you make yourself much more, we'll say, safe, or at least redundant on the defensive side.
Now the tides turn. Outlast, being that I've watched some of their matches, they're rather slow on their attacks. They're going to be very similar to what we saw in the first half from SBL, where they're methodical, they take their time. Maybe if they're able to find a gap, they go for it. But I mean, in every single round that we just watched, Dan, the rounds all ended within the last, like, 20 or so seconds of the round, right? And I imagine that's going to be the same thing for Outlast. When I was going back through one of their matches, it felt like that they're just super slow, and they keep the man count even or in their favor, depending on how the aggression is from the defensive side. But if they're able to keep that mana count in their favor or just even, they have a very good chance of winning on their executes. Every single piece of their team moves together in just a common cog motion, and Rai will take down Asian, and that gives them that man advantage that I was talking about going into what could be an execute later on in the round, as they'll still take their time, they'll do their due diligence, and try to clear these bodies out one by one.
So what they do is they force Asian completely away from the position he was trying to hold. They throw in an Ash charge, they throw in a Selma beforehand, and they just open up every door around him, force him into some angle that's going to take care of him, and they do. Perfect decision-making there. Poison will take out the Twitch drone, but I believe it also was able to drop down a mute jammer. So that wall denial I was talking about earlier, mostly taken care of, but you're only working with an ace on this attacking side now. By no means do you have as much hard breach as we saw brought up by the SBL attack.
If takes down Rai, but is quickly traded out by Austin on the ace. Austin, one of those members who's also a very talented shooter, and in recent months has become very, very good at the game. At least it feels like on the gun skills side of things, usually kind of supporting his team on that supportive hard breacher role, but also has found his own naturally, especially on the defensive side, as an aggressive shooter. Nick still above, trying to hold his own weight at the top of Solar Stairs. A couple players still marching their way through here from Outlast. They seem to be dedicated to going for this full top clear. But there's not much time left on the clock. Barring they got inside early and got an early pick, they still have to clear this player up in the top of Solar. You will check the angle, but Nick wins the engagement and gets out of dodge. He might find the player on trophy window, but he ends up being worse for wear after that engagement. And Rice, all of a sudden, has been dropped to a sliver of HP on the Solar Stairs as well. So two players stuck in very ugly positions, but they've gotten out. Vipoa finds the kill onto Rice, but does not check Red Hall. Nick tries sprinting away. 10 seconds left on the clock. Zucky hits the head of Poison, and Outlast will march away with a tied round yet again as we go 4-4. Outlast, a really solid attack. I mean, I loved what we saw. Their tempo was good, and they took their time. Like I said, it feels like it's something that they just do. That they're just so consistent in their time.
SBL, for the time being, looked comfortable. As soon as that kill was picked up by the Warden, you're thinking to yourself, oh, they're going to disengage onto site. They're going to completely turtle themselves in. But I don't like that decision from SBL, just completely putting themselves out of position after you thought they were going to be safe and sound. It just was a, we'll say, poor bit of decision making. And obviously, we have hindsight and a heck of a lot of X-ray vision, so I have an unfair way of making that determination. But it's concerning, at least looking at this from the perspective of SBL, another position where you just overheat a little bit, you give away a couple kills, map positioning, and direct off-site parallel positioning, and you basically give away a round in the process. Outlast, again, a lead to start off the half. They're up 1, and you could reasonably say that SBL should probably be up 5-3 right now.
Yeah, there's a few rounds where I just feel like there have been mistakes, right, from the side of SBL, and it's kind of shocking to say that. It's almost like putting a fire hose in your mouth, trying to make that statement, because SBL are a team of very vetted players. All of these guys have what feels like years and years and years of Siege comp experience, some at the highest level, even internationally. When you think about players like Spiff and Rice, who have both competed high up on those stages. But for some reason, they just cannot get themselves held together. This Outlast roster has been more impressive than I really expected them to be. I thought SBL were going to kind of manhandle them here, especially on Chalet, a map that I feel like all of these players from SBL have been very good on in their career. It's not even just like the team itself. I just feel like all these players, I remember having some sort of memorable or solid moment on Chalet. But so far, there's really not been much. Rice tries to get aggressive, and he takes a lot of damage. A very aggressive and risky play, and now has to get out of dodge. He even has to tear down the barricade and evacuate on the roam. As Outlast has done a solid job of just taking their time, forcing the players back with utility and not with their lives.
Seems like a concerted lack of planning should something go immediately wrong. There's never a plan B for SBL right off the bat, which is making me concerned for some of these later round collapses. Outlast has looked really comfortable, at least after that first round, in recovering what they had lost early. Again, that was a 3v4 that they brought back, even with the first kill lost by the Warden. But SBL, yeah, these are a couple frags you can't afford to give away. That's a nice angle from Vipoa. He doesn't know it, and nor does he have the opportunity anymore, because he's back away from the angle. He's very isolated. He can't back up, he can't move forward, or else he's going to dive from below. And as soon as he moves forward, somehow he's found the gap. How is he alive?
What?
Vipoa, look up! You forced him out of position, you do absolutely nothing with it, and Spiff wins the opening fight. How has he not found an opening, and SBL find 2 in the process?
There's no world that Outlast failed to capitalize on that. Someone wasn't ready to go, and my guess is that someone was Vipoa, who just wasn't locked in on the vertical play. Get rid of the Maestro. Poison will be dealt with after taking out Rai as Donkey. Starts their efforts in a 1 versus 5. All the bullets flying around him. The big swing from Rice finishes him off. But that's a round that Outlast, truthfully, should have at least gotten rid of the Maestro and maybe begun to spiral their way in towards a site execute. Instead, that big misstep, that big mistake, all of a sudden fell apart, and SBL were able to run away with it. They got that round back, and we're still even. I mean, both of these teams right now, I can't really pick a favorite for who's going to win the map, because they seem so evenly matched, whether it's a mistake that one of the teams make, rather, or whether it's a really, really good play that one of the teams make. And it just, there's no in between.
I'm at a point right now where you could reasonably say at really any point, oh, why in the world did this team make the mistake, or how in the world did the other team force them into making the mistake? By no means this is all one squad in each individual round, just, you know, throwing their brain outside of their skull for a 3-minute period of Rainbow Six Siege. But at the same time, there are a couple situations where we, obviously reasonably having X-ray vision, could say, why was that a call? And obviously we'll never directly know unless we have an hour-and-a-half long talk with one of the IGLs. But at this point, you also have to be concerned.
I would,
What,
I would
mirror on the
love
left
to
side?
just, no,
An hour
I
and a
would
half?
just,
Oh, okay.
I would just love to sit there and talk with someone for an hour and a half, like someone as smart as these guys are with Siege. And I've gotten the time to talk to them, at least here and there, most notably at like majors and stuff. But oh my god, to sit there and just like pick apart someone's brain on why they do things the way that they do.
I'd like to do
and,
it
study
with a
them.
VOD.
Yes, exactly. You learn so much from people that just have so much experience. You realize how dumb you are. that's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe one day one of these fine gentlemen, any of them in the lobby, might offer us some of the time. SBL, They try to work on their defense. Hopefully they're able to continue leveraging time, but Outlast will begin their takes and their efforts over from the solar side. You've got Zonky at least doing some drone work. Actually, 3 members of Outlast doing drone work, but no one taking. Now Rai finally hops in the building, but a little bit slow.
I think they're trying to segment this. They've basically cleared the entirety of the north side of the second floor, bar Spiff, who doesn't know that bathroom had been fully cleared. He'll just back away. The difficult position now is how do you clear Asian? We've seen this a couple times from Fenrir's in general, but Asian has not directly gone for a full round-deciding flank in this game. I'd like to see him just sit in this position. Don't move. Don't put yourself out of position. There is not a single Claymore being brought by Outlast, nor is there any flank direct denial. Again, only cameras available to do that. So, if Asian finds a timing, which it seems like that timing's just about now, he could very well find a kill, or, in some cases, a player hiding inside a kitchen. There's a swing, and there's the Dukevi. Now we know why she's banned so often.
Rough one there for Asian to end up losing that engagement. Just had no help and got himself stuck in a position where he was in a one-on-one, and if he won it, hey, it was going to be great, but unfortunately he didn't. Now he puts his team in a position that no team wants to find themselves in. Rice will end up finding a fake back that takes down Austin. It's been pretty solid in this match, but Vipoa and the rest of Outlast flood their way in through the top floor. They don't quite know that library is fully clear, but all members have evacuated out of this position, and now they know that they are set to begin to set up for their execute. You've walks down the main stairs. He'll check into the stock pods, but he's been nearsighted by that FNAP mine and is in a tricky position because there's a player right behind the bar that might be able to find that kill. No one, though, steps up from their spot. And all of a sudden, SBL, they're in an ugly spot. I would not want to be someone on SBL here having to try to fight for my life with 0 map control, 0 map presence anywhere. Poison works their way up main with 1 player down and now finished off. All of a sudden, he's on his own, and he dies, dropping down the bar hatch. Very, very amazing play from Outlast. I mean, they get SBL right where they want them, Dan. It's like they can just move them and manipulate their opponent wherever they want and set up for that plant. It's very, very incredible what we're watching out of this team.
It's just so amazing how they force SBL into positions where they think they have so much safety. It's just a false sense of security. The entire site seemingly was. And then you flip a switch, and within 9 seconds, 4 players die. How in the world does Outlast just walk in, find a couple kills, and yeah, hey, we're going to start a plant and still take care of the last player upstairs? They had that positioning. They forced him just completely either away from the site or into a 6-foot deep grave. There's nothing that SBL could have consciously done there except for take the fight to Outlast that would have won them that round. They just could not get out of their own positions because of how many redundancies Outlast gave themselves. Oh, hey, you've taken a fight from this angle? No, we have a second or third player watching it. You saw 3 players walk into bar all from the same position within 3 seconds of each other. That's exactly why. Outlast just has that hair trigger. They have a big red button. Just this one, maybe not as nuclear, still equally as explosive, though.
Feels a little nuclear, the way that they are handling SBL. I mean, so far. Really, really liked the team play out of Outlast. I mean, their coordination just, like, puts me in awe, honestly. It feels like these guys have been playing together for, like, 3 years or something. And they haven't. I mean, a couple of them have been together for at least a year. But yeah. You've and Zonky definitely haven't been with this roster for very long at all. So what we're seeing out of them, very impressive, very incredible. Yeah, I hope to see these guys continue to do as they're doing. Vipoa will work their way in through Ivy. You got Austin playing the cutoff angle. Typically playing a hard support operator, but gets to leverage their control onto the Zofia since they're just going to be sitting on solar stairs for most of the round as they try to force Asian off of this position inside of office yet again. More drones, more utility going to be forced towards this Fenrir, but someone has to win the fight. Someone eventually will have to take the engagement with the Fenrir inside of office. More than likely, it'll be Vipoa. He walks his way in through piano. There's one player just around the corner as You've takes down Spiff. Spiff has just not been able to get himself on the board, and Vipoa takes down Asian. Although Rice finds one, he's traded out by Rai. Poison finds one with the Nitro Cell as You've goes down, but still SBL are in that man deficit.
It's not an easy one to come back from, especially considering they've expended all of their utility. You're running a Warden and a Valk. The extent of what you've got is cameras and maybe the lack of vision obfuscation, but it does not matter. At least not at this point. There's no flashes, there's no smokes. The extent of them, or whatever Rai has left in that visual, is still bugged on the right side of your screen. So Outlast, they seem to want to go on to map point here, and they have a very easy way of doing so. A minute still left on this clock, and SBL, they still have to deal with 2 cameras, make it 3, as Zonky has both of them available, and a 55-second timer that Outlast seems more than happy to allow tick down and just let SBL fester in their own thoughts.
45 seconds left. SBL, it feels rather quiet for them. They're really not sure what to hold. Where are their opponents? I mean, Rice and Spiff are both flipping player POVs. That means that cameras have probably all been either shut down or they've been hacked, and they're just not useful for them anymore.
Yeah.
Poison slowly lurking through the red hall, right under this hatch drop. He's got himself in a good position. The issue is, our Outlast ready for the execute. They've still got a drone creeping in through sight, getting that last second information to figure out where their opponents are. Rai tries to hit Nick with the fire, but it actually ends up pushing Zonky to get killed. Poison goes and gets one for himself as well. Rai has no time left on the board, and Poison, not known for being a heck of a shooter, but in there he'll hit the shot, takes down the head of Rai, and it's a good defensive round win, rather, for SBL.
SBL now into a pause, have a pseudo-tactical timeout. Again, Asian DC, he's been dealing with some packet loss from what I saw in the X-ray. But he's been more than comfortable to take those fights, he being Poison in that scenario. And even in more of a collapsible position for SBL, they're able to re-expand what they have. They're able to manifest destiny, both the adjective and the term back to how America expanded. And their site control just turned into much more than it originally seemed. Outlast thought they had so much more than they actually did. That drop was unsuccessful. Their top floor control was basically inconsequential. They did nothing with it for some reason. And they, again, took 30, 35, 40 seconds to initiate a push onto the site when they didn't have to. Remember, I said about a minute left, minute 5, minute 10. And yet, Outlast just wait and wait and wait. I didn't see them using drones. They weren't putting themselves into better positions in that time period. They basically just gave SBL a better position to come back from a player deficit, and for no particular reason. That is what makes things difficult in the attacking side, and SBL are more than happy to turn that 6th player on the defensive side, being the timer, into a free round victory because it forced Outlast to just overrush it when they didn't have to with a player advantage.
Thankfully, we've gotten Asian back into the lobby rather swiftly. Neither team has needed a attack timeout, but hopefully they were able to use some of that time to engage with each other and figure out how they want to attack these next couple rounds and keep themselves out of going overtime. Of course, this is Team SBL's map pick. They'd really like to take it because we know that Outlast is a solid roster on Nighthaven Labs, and I don't know about you, Dan, but I don't really know what SBL has up their sleeves for Labs. I mean, maybe Rice has some good old DZ strats or something, but other than that, I don't know what they've cooked up. So no, I don't know how their chances are if we well, not if we get there, when we get there.
I'm looking at Nighthaven saying it will rely on SBL opening up Blood Bowl out of those rounds because, in my mind,
Yeah.
they're a more utility-based team, and they will set their players up for success with their utility, whether it be primary, like the abilities, or secondary, like impact grenades or C4s. And that verticality will really play in, and Nighthaven Labs offers a much different type of vertical play, especially on and around those sites. It's similar to Chalet and what Villa used to be in that respect, but Chalet plays a little differently to open up a lot of these rounds. Zonky bringing in the Twitch again, they're putting it in with a Jackal and a Finka. I would not be surprised if we see Outlast start their push, what used to be the hair trigger 20-30 second meta, at about the minute mark or so, considering the composition alone. And that seems like what at least they're doing on the top floor, and it's fairly successful. Ain't nobody here anymore. Full top floor, bar just library and the top of blue stairs is clear.
I mean, maybe potentially. But the way that Outlast have been, I just don't imagine seeing them play around that doesn't get down to the less than 20-second mark, at least when they're on the attack. Unless SBL literally just chooses to run at them and give them like a 5v1 with 2 minutes left to play. And even then, Outlast have the discipline that they've showed to still sit there and wait out time and still drone and do all the little things instead of just running at the last guy like a bunch of crackheads, right? So I'd like to see maybe Outlast step up their tempo. I think that when they do have to play against more aggressive teams, like what happened when they played against Osiris, that they do struggle a little bit because of that early pressure, and that slows them down when they don't have all 5 members to work in that autonomous fashion. Poison going to get forced forward here with the grenade, stepping into it rather than stepping away, still trying to keep this trench control for as long as possible. But I feel like a Goyo for SBL would help so much in these late rounds against Outlast, who take a long time to go for these pushes.
The only issue is that utility usually gets cleared much earlier than the actual push is initiated. Shotgun here for Poison needs to pay off for 1. The bait's perfect, but he still finds 1. Make it 2 with a down. The M590, the difference maker. And SBL looking for at least a OT guaranteed. Seems at least good to start. Rai on the top floor disconnected from Austin. He's isolated. He'll get taken care of from the 45 hall. And Austin, yeah, he's at just sitting at the bottom of the stairs. Can't do anything in this engagement. He'll even lose to Poison, who finds 3. He doesn't need to be a gunner. He already is shooting everybody down on the opposing side. And SBL finally take a lead. Their first of the day.
Kind of disrespectful by Poison to just run at the last guy like that. It's not something you usually see from him. That's about a confidence, and I like that. I actually really like to see that, especially out of supportive players who are typically just relegated to drone me in and sit on my default cams for 2 minutes. So good on Poison for getting in on some of the action. Team SBL, they take the first match point here for map number 1. There could be a second one offered up later on, should we get to overtime, if Outlast can leverage themselves this round. Overall, though, I've really liked what we've seen out of Team SBL. I will argue, though, that I think that players like Asian, most notably, could really step up here. And I think that You've, again, has been rather quiet for the talented player that we know he can be and has been in the past. I'd really like to see You've step it up, and Asian for sure, because we know that he's a good gunner. We know that he succeeds in these environments, but he just really hasn't found his stride. And that's been the one thing that I've been most worried about when watching this SBL roster is they have gunners, they have shooters. The issue is many of them don't seem to be at their top form or their peak form like what they were at one point or another. And so if they're able to get themselves back maybe out of the slump that they're in, or figure something out with their mechanics and get themselves back to where they can be, this could be one of the best rosters that we have currently in the tier 2 scene.
So my only issue with this team composition, not the operators, but the team itself, is because they're putting together so many extremely good gunners, a lot of their success will rely on mechanical skill. And yeah, it's nice to have it sometimes, but when you start to rely on it, that's when you start to run a slippery slope, especially against a team that is very good at clearing out your preset utility that would otherwise put your IGL in a much better scenario. There's Nick with an opening. Nick will go up to 8 and 5 in this game, but Spiff, basically your top fragger and on a big fragging roll, is gone. You're now top fragger who's living, and this final round of regulation is Poison on the Mute, who I've said I still love, both the person and the operator.
Has SBL given up top floor control like pretty easily for bar games here? I mean, you've got Asian working on the blue stairs, and you've got Rice working their way in through piano. But Austin's found himself a nice position. Somehow Nick wins that engagement. Rai's getting the diffuser down. Is anyone there to stop it? Yes, there is. Poison with a nice C4 to respond, denying the entry. Zonky finds 1 on a Nick, but he's been dropped down to a sliver of HP. No Gumine's from to step on, but it doesn't really matter. Vipoa just walks in. He kills 2 players, not even looking in the right direction at all. Rice from the hatch will have to clutch now. Zonky with the cover. Could be good. The issue is he's on 1 HP. This is very winnable for Rice if he's able to isolate these 1v1s. Pre-fire away, finds the body of Zonky, but does he know where Vipoa is positioned? Inside a stock closet goes Vipoa. Best to clutch up for his team if they want to keep themselves here with a chance to take SBL on their own map pick good information here for Outlast. This should be more than winnable here for Vipoa. And he finds the headshot on the Rice. No world that SBL make those mistakes and let Vipoa just hop into the site on his own. They gave him 3 kills, 2 kills for free in reality, with just no idea that the Nomad was in the middle of the bomb site.
You know, if they were distracted by somebody else, I'd say that's more than reasonable. But it just wasn't happening. He walks into the site, makes so much noise that a herd of elephants would have been scared of him, and somehow is not noted by either player. Again, we saw the Fenrir just waiting on the outside of the site, walking through that bar door, and Poison dies without looking once more. He had direct sound cues into the site. Vaulting is not a quiet action. Shooting at a rotate hole is not a quiet action. He grabs diffuser, walks through, takes 2 kills, and is like, oh yeah, I've got time to do my taxes before Rice has time to get back to the site. By the way, it's tax season, don't forget to do those. SBL, this should be a 7-5 win. They should have taken that 3-2 to the bank, or in this case to Nighthaven Labs, and yet here we are in OT of map 1.
I'm just confused if Poison didn't know where he died from, or if Asian just walked into the site lost as hell. I don't know where the error fell on, right? I don't know if it just fell on Asian just kind of, walking around clueless as ever, or if it was on Poison who didn't make a call out, or maybe a combination of both, or maybe it's timing or a game thing. Whatever the case may be, there's just no world that Outlast should have walked away with this round. We should be on cams, get ready to head into a break and load up map number 2. But instead, we're into overtime, and that could be something that comes back to bite Team SBL if Outlast end up taking this map off of them, because that's going to put all the more pressure on these guys when we get into Nighthaven Labs, which is a map that we know Outlast are confident on. We know that they're good on it. They've beat good teams on it before. They beat Temper last night on it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling about my confidence in SBL anymore. I'm really, really liking the way that Outlast has been playing.
I'm still in the boat where it is anybody's game up to the final part of the round. I don't care what the man count is at this point. Spiff wins an opening fight inside a bathroom and will reposition over towards the far side of Solarium. He finds a second and he'll get away safely. How in the world is he full HP, much less with any?
What?
Yeah, you've just walked around Master, didn't clear him because he thought his teammate was doing so in bathroom, and they don't stack up. Instead, they try to take on opposite sides of the top floor, and it costs them 2 players. Ironically enough, the first one, or the second one, was even outside the building, and oh my goodness, Spiff, he wins it! No way he goes for 3. Okay, he's woken up. He wasn't already.
Apparently, a little dash of aggression is all that was needed. A dash of aggression. It was all that needed to be added to the formula for SBL to get themselves right back to where they expected to be. Match point, potentially. Bounding that they don't throw another 4 versus 2 to Zonky and Vipoa, who are both, of course, the last 2 members alive. So it is possible. It is still possible. It is still winnable. And it was on this site just 1 round ago that we watched one hell of a throw job by Team SBL. Now, hopefully that's not the case for them if you're a fan of this team, but I imagine it's got to be really hard to do that twice. It's got to be really hard. It'd be
so
crazy.
The lack of information here for SBL is really costing them. Oh, and there's the jump. As soon as the second dread mine goes off, Vipoa was basically just tunneled straight in to the line of sight of Asian, and Zonky needs to 1v4 here. I've seen crazy things thus far this game. I don't think this is going to add to that tally. 30 seconds of the 417, no diffuser, and just a couple smokes to your name makes things, we'll say, a little bit more than dire at this point. SBL has made up for their previous woes. By no means is this a 1 game, but, it makes them much more confident.
The hunting pack
will indeed die, and Poison will hunt down yet another end-of-the-round frag. But this is a game where SBL are finally fully in the driver's seat. They were just a couple rounds ago, and they kinda gave it away. They were there, and they finally capitalized. Now they're up again for only the 2nd time in this game. This is only the 2nd lead they've had, and yet it's to close out the map. Not clean, but to close it out regardless.
They've been in this position before, Dan. That's all I'll say. It's so weird how you see trends on teams, right? Outlast is a team that struggles when they don't have man count, when they don't have their set 5 ready to go for the execute. If they've got all 5 men for the execute, where they've got a man advantage, at least, usually they're really, really good at their executes. So if you're playing against Outlast, your team SBL, you've got to find a way to dislodge it. You've got to find a way to change something. And their change was, let's have Spiff run at them and get a pick really early on in the round and see what we can do from there. And notice how that trended pretty easily into a Team SBL win because Spiff was able to get away with a couple kills, most notably due to the fact that it was just really, really poor droning and mistakes made by Outlast, which has been far and few between in this match, much fewer than Team SBL. But they were able to leverage that, and that's why they're on this match point. And I think that if they do even lose this round, if they're able to take that same theory into round 15, should we get there, I think that they could still potentially find themselves winning their own map, just closer than they expected.
So there's the new and the old in terms of some operator selection. I believe this is our first Thatcher. It's
Couple
certainly
new.
our first Glaz, and definitively our only first or second Thermite. We haven't seen Thermite all that much at all.
We've barely seen any of these operators. Ram,
Yeah.
Gridlock, like almost none of them.
And we've seen Ram once, maybe twice. Gridlock has not been seen. But the entire defensive composition is, I believe, a carbon copy to the last time they played the bottom floor. And it was back when Austin was able to clutch out that insane 1vx where he found 3 kills on the site and then was finally taken care of. But this is a round where SBL, they've already seen it. We were talking about that adaptability, very beginning of things. Who can make that adaptation first, or who can make it better? Those are two very different conversations. I feel like we will find both of those answers in this very round.
Asian setting some of those flanks, the Gridlock Stingers, trying to deny any aggression that could come here from Outlast. You've seen that they've liked to get a little dicey towards the end of rounds, and no way the Kaid trick on the main wall? No way you let that happen.
They combine it with a Zoto canister.
Even then, though, I mean, if you just play vertical, then you can hold it. And yeah, it's a little bit difficult to play vertical on the site because of the long angles that have been established through dining and kitchen. But if you drone it, you take the time, that wall doesn't have to get opened this early on in the round. It can be opened super late. It can be open with 10 seconds left, you can still be successful. Poison's trying to find a way to get this wall open. The last EMP has been used unless they get good vertical, and if that Kaid claw is up high enough to where you can't shoot it, then you might be okay. You might be able to just sit tight, sit pretty, if you're Outlast, and wait. And that's what they're doing right now. They're just waiting for SBL to make their move, and SBL are struggling more than ever. 5 very veteran players cannot get the snowmobile wall open. I'm so worried.
At least they have outside control. That's the bare minimum. They at least have a way in. Blue stairs, main stairs, even the back side of the site. They have a position to work off of, and they find an opening kill with it, make it 2. The smoke with the glass, this is not something we have seen thus far today, and maybe not something that's easily recognizable as the strat early on, and Rice finds a kill off the back of it. Austin holding his flank, he'll finally lose a gunfight in a 1v1. Zonky needs to clutch. We've seen a DMR do so before. We will not see one do so once more on Chalet. SBL will close out their own map selection. They will take Chalet. Yes, it was labored. Yes, it went to overtime. But there will be a 1 on their side of the scoreboard, and that's really the only thing that matters.
I'll tell you what, Dan. I'm kinda surprised at that last round, but I think it was a really good adjustment out of the side of SBL. They brought the glass. They noticed that Outlast weren't running a ward, and they were able to leverage the smokes and use something that no one could counter. The only counter to that smoke may have been a C4 if someone was able to lob it far enough from an angle that the Glaz wasn't already able to challenge. And they found a way to just walk down main stairs and make a push work.
They actually did throw a C4. It just missed. I think Rice saw it. He easily picked it up, was like, no, I'm not dealing with this, backed away for a few seconds, and just bided his time. At the end of the day, everything worked in that final round for SBL other than getting a single wall open, and they were more than happy to turn that into a round victory. They snowball a couple kills, they just collapse on the site from basically every angle, whether it be the west main stairs, whether it be main stairs towards fireplace, or even blue, surprisingly enough, they still had vertical angles to hold down as well. Virtually everything other than a single wall was their full control, and they didn't have a make or break with that single wall. So that's what.
Well, I'll tell you what. It was a very impressive map. A lot of adjustments between both teams. A lot of rounds getting down to that very, very late last 30 seconds or so timer. And I expect to see a lot more of that on Nighthaven Labs. I think that Outlast is going to be a rather slow-pushing team, and I think that Team SBL, because we don't know what to expect from them, may also just fall to the same bout. We'll find out in just a few minutes once we do get there, but both these teams will have some time to talk it out. We'll see you all in just a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Obviously, we've just finished map number 1, and now we head into map number 2 in our final regular season, or GSL, match here in Xenon Spring Burst. My name is Clemson, joining alongside me is, of course, the wonderful Daniel Rodier in Time to Lighthouse. Did you like the R roll? I was not expecting to hit that.
That was pretty good.
I was not expecting to hit that. That was kind of nice. It was kind of good. And just like map number 1, I felt like it was pretty good between both the teams. We saw some incredible plays, really good adjustments and adaptations, high-level siege overall, garnering through map number 1. And now we head into Nighthaven Labs, a map that Outlast has proven themselves to be good on, but we have yet to see SBL compete here, and this is what I'm excited for, to see these two teams go at it, where, yeah, you've got a little bit of VOD if you're SBL, but Outlast, they've got nothing as far as I'm concerned, and that's going to be potentially what could tip the tide here into a 2-0, or are Outlast comfortable enough to win themselves off and get themselves into that the 1-1. My math is terrible tonight. You're the math guy,
luckily,
and I'm not.
They'd get into quarterfinals. That's what matters.
Yes,
it would just be a different invited team, and that's the difference maker. It's not like they'd be the 2 versus a 3 seed. You make this, you win it. It doesn't matter what your score line is. Actually, it may. Hold up. What was the other decider game? Also, Dekebi was finally banned, so that was nice. Only took him an extra game or so. Coastal's game finished 2-0, so this would have to be a 2-0 for them to have a pseudo higher seed because of round differential, I believe. He was not as confident of a first round, so that'll be the but that's neither here nor there. Dokebi and Ying, that's about what we expect most of the time. Last time it was Ying, unsurprising, and a Brava, a little surprising. Did you just see all chat? Look at all chat.
You know what? I think Rai deserves it. I think Rai has earned a little bit.
I mean, okay, excuse my French. He was getting shit on by everybody else, so his cat decided to join in.
Oh, yikes, poor guy. I don't think Rai deserves it that hard. I love Rai. He's like one of my favorite people in the world. I just like to talk trash on him once in a while because he is such a good sport about everything, and he's way better than I ever will be at the game and ever dream to be at the game. So.
I'm sorry, I had to get it out.
I mean, so did the cat.
Yeah, evidently.
I mean, so did the cat. Like,
so the two things I want to bring up here, at least through the bans. Number one, Dokebi being removed, expected. Much larger map in comparison to any other map in the pool, especially with the amount of staircases and variability you can bring on the defensive side. So making sure you have an ability to clear out that roam, or in this case, making sure the offense doesn't, for SBL was their number 1 priority. On the other side, banning out a Fenrir. They don't want to deal with that same level of variability for defensive utility. They would rather take care of an Azami, which they'll have to do, considering Azami is picked by Asian in this first round, and probably will be for most of this game. Asian was known to play Azami for most of NAL tenure, and a lot of his T3 tenure / T2 tenure when Azami came out, because he's been in the Siege scene since well before Azami was even released. I'd like to see Outlast...
No way.
What?
No way. Crazy
guy. Heading out to defuse a bomb.
Asian has been around for a while. That's all.
Yeah.
Continue. I want to hear the rest.
No, I was just gonna say I'd like to see Outlast play for more distance breachability, and that's what we're seeing with Yuve. Playing the Ash here is a great decision because you know you're gonna have to deal with an Azami. So too is the Flores, because you take care of soft breach utility or soft utility that can be taken out, or the Azami yourself. So a lot of good decisions made for the attacking side, considering the defensive picks that are available to.
Maverick, definitely a good pick. It's tough to open up some of these exterior walls here on Nighthaven Labs, so utilizing the Maverick Torch should make it a little bit easier than doing so. Dan, you okay over there?
I was drinking water. I was pointing out the fact that the Flores was indeed taking out Azami Keeper.
Of course.
That's all.
Of course. As every Flores should do when an Azami is left up on the board. Me personally, I would not. I would just run at the other team. Way more fun.
Is Juve about to throw an ash charge to the floor there and clear out not only the shield but the position as they open that main wall?
Hell yeah, that would be amazing gameplay. Maybe they're gonna insert him down below. I mean, that seems like an ideal world, but I almost feel like it'd be better to have Vipoa go downstairs and do that instead as the Buck. But that's probably not the case since he just opened it for the Maverick.
The problem is the Buck can't clear out the shield itself. If you throw the explosive of the ash, you can clear the shield and the position.
True. You're not wrong.
But they're not doing so, and I don't know why.
Maybe they are. They've got Vipoa in down below now, and maybe he's the player
I agree with you.
to get rid of it. Yeah, I'm right. I'm always right, Dan. That's why I'm just the GOAT. And Juve ends up finding a pick onto Asian elsewhere. That is from down below. I don't know how he was able to leverage that pick, but it's a good one nonetheless. And with 60 seconds left on the clock, OUTLAST. They're taking their time. This is something they did just on Chalet. They do it every single game. They're slow. They're methodical. But have they read in to the aggressive positioning out of Rice, who's got himself all the way back inside a connector? You've still got a player on Waterfall. No, the entire push has walked all the way around. They're now walking their way up through Garage, up through Warehouse. This is an incredible readout of OUTLAST. They've completely baited out SBL to repositioning into false locations.
The problem is this false location is still very easy to deal with the attacking rotation. With inside of E-Box, you still haven't cleared this position, and you have to worry about other ones at the same time. Watch out for that Kaid as that re-aggression comes through from Spiff. AR-15 not required. He swaps to the MPX on the Tubarao. You can see exactly why. One picked up by Poison with that shotgun. He'll be reswung, but it's not going to matter. Austin's in a 1 versus 3 is stuck inside of a Zoto canister and just doesn't have a way into the site. This is a great adaptation from SBL. We've been talking about Phantom Pressure for literal seasons, and everybody's been really talking about it more recently. Phantom Pressure is only good if the defense still thinks you're in the general vicinity, or else your Phantom Pressure is discovered as a Phantom and no longer becomes pressured. That's exactly what happens to OUTLAST's attack on that connector/E-Box side, and SBL take full advantage. Amazing result for SBL.
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw, if you were paying attention to the chat while Dan was talking there, the Zoto canister bugged, and poor Austin was just caught in the frozen mud forever. He walked all the way from rafters over to Waterfall. No, not for as long as he was stuck for. He was like bug stuck. Like, it's only supposed to happen when you're in the Zoto canister itself.
I thought it was a few seconds after.
It's not residual? The whole thing across. No, he had it since rafters, Dan. He got stuck when he was opening the rafters wall, and he walked all the way outside and around. It took him like 40 seconds to get there. Like, poor guy fighting his demons, and that sucks. Sometimes it's the nature of the game where natural selection chooses you to experience an unfortunate siege bug, and you're the bearer of bad news. But it happens to everyone, and what comes around will go around as well. So I'm sure sooner than later it could happen to SBL in another match at a separate time, or it could happen in favor for OUTLAST in another time. But let's hope not. Let's hope that the game is integral and there's no bugs and it's flawless and everything works as it's supposed to. Right?
Today's episode of things that'll never happen.
No, it has to. It has to happen. One day. One day, technology will be so good.
Copium over there.
I am coping a little bit. Look, coping too close to the sun.
Top floor walk-in. This only opens up Garage itself. Spiff still hasn't been cleared out of position, but he knows he's being looked down, and that is at least half the battle. Asian also being forced out of position. He's got the door to contend with outside of CC, and at this point, OUTLAST are very good with clearing out this top floor extension. The problem is they're not finding any kills with it. Yeah, you found a couple players, but you've lost 4 drones, that being the 4th in the process, and you forced out very little, if any, utility in the process.
Really heavy roam extension here on the basement. Rice looking to find the head of this player. It's Austin. The thermite to go down so soon would be tragic, although both exothermics have been used. A little bit of chip damage done, but the body to not fall as of yet. They know about Nick in this spot inside of control, but is anyone able to take the fight? It seems like Austin and the IQ of Juve are trying to leverage his pressure, but no one's been able to get the swing. Thankfully, though, a couple picks go in favor for Outlast, although it was Rice to find the opener, taking down
Attackers have
Austin.
recovered their diffuser.
Minute left on the board here. Asian still lurking around up on the top floor, or that middle floor.
They're doing the exact same thing. I was talking about that phantom pressure, and it's only good if you actually apply the pseudo phantom pressure, or else they think it's clear. That's the case right now. Remember, Poison was on that main breach, and that's something they're going to have to be concerned about as long as they don't clear it. They just cleared the entirety of the breach. Nobody was in the same zip code as that breach being open, so SBL can still focus elsewhere, and as they do so, Spiff is caught on a rotation. I don't think he knows that there's Asian within 5 feet of him, and Asian finds the kill in the process. 35 seconds on this clock. Time starting to become a factor. A volley of flashes, but they don't clear Asian. They finally do, though. What a shot from Rai. The M4 pays off in dividends, and Poison's now isolated into 1 versus 3. He also has 2 toxic babes in the process, but that one's going to be late. It will not be lethal to Zonky, who's able to get the diffuser down and get out of position safely, just barely at that same juncture. He'll be walked in on. Poison knows it. He'll at least find 1. The 1v3 turned up to the max, but the problem is they don't have direct line of sight on the diffuser, of which he's sticking. At least he would have been able to do so, but he doesn't turn it into an immediate round victory. Ram up above will remove that obfuscation of vision. He wants to try and long arm from around the corner, but his foot was showing. He was on 1 HP. Vipoa will lock in Outlast to a round, but boy, was it scary.
Poison almost brained his way into a round win there. A couple of well-placed shots, smart timing, gas grenade usage. If he stuck that defuse at that time that the vertical was still being made inside of control, oh boy, would that have been amazing
Attackers need to locate
for
and
SBL.
defuse as many bombs as they can.
But it didn't happen. Poison didn't have that read. White. And he knew he had at least a 1v1 that he could take, and so he decided to take that engagement rather than try to hope that he could stick out the defuse. But if he was able to get shot down quickly by one of those shotgun pellets, then maybe the risk was worth it. I don't really know. I'm not one to judge. It's one of those last-second tense situations, and you think you've got to play for kills because you're playing at such a high level that most teams wouldn't let you get away with a defuse there.
10 seconds to insertion.
I think Outlast is going to let him get away with it. If he stuck it, he would have gotten it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
But
That would've
Outlast
been a
is a good
wild
team, and they shouldn't let someone get away with it. And so technically, they didn't.
The attacker's bomb diffuser
theory.
has
True.
been dropped.
They,
Attackers have
Outlast have outsmarted Poison. What they've done is they've made him think that they're a good team so that they wouldn't let him counter defuse there. But they're actually terrible.
You've heard
Little
of
did we
phantom
know.
pressure. Have you heard of phantom skill?
Exactly. Perfect. That's a beautiful way to describe it. Phantom skill.
Oh my
That's my
gosh.
type of Siege gameplay.
Yep.
Attackers have dropped the bomb diffuser.
I'm just a
Attackers
phantom.
recovered the bomb diffuser.
You thought I
You're
was
just a
there. I'm
phantom. You
actually
just don't
already dead.
exist.
Yep.
Who are you?
Exactly.
Who are you? And what is the Outlast attack? So far, it's upstairs, but
This is a weird spot to hold the same basic position that you held at the earlier part of the previous round. But the problem is you're basically just moving everything up the floor. Your base hold is on the first floor, your extend is on the second. You kind of had a second floor extension in the previous round, but not by a heck of a lot. The issue now for SBL is how much do you dedicate to this top floor? How much stock do you put in that vertical pressure? Because on this only site, and this is basically the only site where this is the case, vertical pressure is not the end-all be-all. There's no direct access to the site via a hatch. They cannot get in based off of only vertical pressure. And yeah, you get warehouse/garage off of it, but that's nothing consequential. Minute 30, and Asian's just being walked in on, flashes being volleyed through, a staring contest with the sun, but a perfect Kiba barrier keeps him alive, and he can still hold this angle, regardless of the fact that his ears are ringing out of his head.
they've used all of their flashbangs. There's one more. It comes through. Spiff, though, finds one. What a clean up house up on the top floor. Spiff, Asian, and Rai. Not Spiff, Asian, and Rai. Spiff, Asian, and Rice all getting in on the action.
What?
Vipoa Gets Asian down to low HP, and Zonky is trying to work from the rear flank and top rafters, but he gets dusted by Spiff. Last member alive is Vipoa. They are able to get the pre-fire headshot on the Asian, but they've still got to find 4 more bodies within 45 seconds. It's just not gonna happen. Nick finds the headshot after he aggresses in through connector. And what a defensive hold and setup. It seemed like Outlast just had no idea what to do. That one Kiba barrier, Dan, honestly, I think stuffed that entire push, because they were like, we're going to flash dump this and walk in and get the kill. And then that happened. And they were like, what do we do?
It was that and the lack of information. They just don't clear anything else on the first floor or on the second floor. They don't have the information. There's still the mirror playing at the top of garage, or they did and just completely avoided it. And they didn't see nor account for the Azami still holding on the other side of that top floor. They had the rotate angle. They had the vision they needed. They even had a very nice shot from across the room with the kunai knife to create the Cuba barrier. And just like that, Outlast are basically forced to completely recuperate themselves. You said it. They threw everything into flash around the corner, take out Asian. I still don't know what they were going to do, even if they do kill Asian, but everybody dies anyway. And SBL are more than happy to take what were basically free and clear kills to put themselves back in the lead. And Outlast now trying to scramble. The top floor hold was successful last time we saw it for SBL, because they basically played a top floor defense twice thus far. One round one that we just saw in round 3. I'm not confident in Outlast's attack here.
At least so far. I mean, after that one, I didn't love it. I still do have confidence and faith in Outlast, but that one Kiba barrier definitely stuffed them up a little bit. And hopefully they're able to work around that next time, and they're able to be like, oh, let's not let that happen. But also, hopefully for SBL, right, they're able to abuse that. And maybe now that's something that they've found, that, hey, Outlast don't know how to react if we throw a Kiba barrier at a door when they try to walk through it. Let's keep doing that. Maybe that'll work as well. Good team play overall, but it's you find the opener on to Spiff. This time around, denying Spiff frag. A great way to start off a round. That's the Tubrau gone as well. Someone who's been rather impactful, especially against Outlast. So getting rid of Tubrau, who's just been good in this match overall for both sides. Definitely a good start. Rice gets the thermite? How?
Was he opening something up on the bottom floor? I think Rice is on the site. That has to be the case. Rice caught somebody off guard, or caught all of them off guard. It seemed Austin's just wanting that one back. Through that hatch, maybe? Oh, he went down the long hallway. He went back up the stairs we saw him at earlier, and he shot down the long hallway. That's how he picked it up. But the fact they don't clear out this position, they throw in basically the kitchen sink at that, but they do find a kill with it. The problem is they give up way too much for it. C4 around the corner does... What?
Wow.
Wait, no, it was Rice. Okay, it was not Nick that found that kill. I was like, wait, that was such a delayed C4. It was Rice from below who threw the C4. Okay.
Still really good team play. And a good pick overall. Nick holding the angle, Vipoa and a stare down. Zonky will hop into the top of rafters. 60 seconds left. Nick gets a little bit of information, a little bit of chip damage, but now Vipoa also will try to work their way on in. They know where one of these players are, stuck at the top of Waterfall. Zonky will rotate around, trying to isolate this player. But it seems like Rice has also read into, or Poison rather, has read into it. He's got the Mossberg out, and he loses the engagement. Zonky baits him with the flashbang and gets the kill. 30 seconds left. It's a 2-on-2. Zonky finds the head of Rice. Nick has to clutch up. Zonky's walked on in. The flashbang comes through. Rice, or Nick rather, dancing around the pole, and he finds the kills. A 1 versus 2 for Nick as the mute dances through the door frame in between sights. And SBL will win that round.
He takes full advantage of indestructible walls. At the same point, you reinforce one of those for a very good reason. And the flash around the corner, basically the second opportunity to try and catch people out with utility. That one much less successful. And SBL just taking full advantage of very slight oversights for Outlast. And this bottom floor defense, if this comes through, we could be looking at a 5-1 defensive first half of Nighthaven Labs. However, remember, we've seen Nighthaven Labs before, played at a very high level. And if I recall correctly,
referring to a certain match.
I believe I am.
Feels like you're referring to a certain match that happened back in February.
There were a lot of matches that happened in February. I'm probably referring to one of them.
Probably
I'm
one
not
of
sure.
them. Just one of them. Just a random one.
Quick context for all of you not in on the joke. Nighthaven Labs was played in the SI Grand Final. Was map 5. FaZe was up 6-1 on match series and SI final point, and then lost 7 rounds in a row. Where
Banger.
W7M went to the defensive side in the second half and won 5 in a row. So remember, it is a defensive side, at least in the grand scheme of normality.
Especially in the meta we're in right now, which is rather defensive heavy and defensive prevalent. Now, that's a round that, yes, Nick did clutch and was great for SBL, but that's also a round that they should have won, considering the position they were in, until they kind of threw a couple of bodies away, Poison being one of them. But they got the round win, and Nick stepping up as a shooter, getting the opening pick this time onto Zonky. Really, really good for Team SBL. Nick is a player who's very strong, and when he's active, when he's gunning and on the board, he is someone that can really cause hell for their opposing team. And so far, he's shown up really well here on Nighthaven, making a comfortable home for himself at 7-1 just through 4 rounds.
I wish it was. Free info for You've there. At this point, if he finds enough util on the top floor, he may have a free way in. The fact that he doesn't clear Spiff, I believe that was Spiff on the top floor.
It was.
Spiff just drops to the hash. Yeah, he just gets out. I thought Spiff was going to stick around. He decides not to do so. That's a shocker. He could have taken full advantage of that top floor position.
He wants to play smart, though. I think he just wants to leave. Vipoa will leverage some of the verticality using the boogie drone. Playing around with the what direction he wants it to go, and nearly while doing so loses their engagement. But Spiff not able to be trained enough with the SMG-11 to find the shots. Nick gets taken out by Austin, and Vipoa has run into a couple of these players up here, still lurking on this first floor. Asian will wrap their way back up Waterfall, going for a flank. This, without information for Outlast, could prove deadly, as Rice ends up getting that kill onto Vipoa, leaving Outlast at the disadvantage.
Disadvantage as well. I think it's based off of sound cues. Asian was not heard walking up the stairs, and that could catch out the entirety of Outlast. It may not have to, though. Rai gets down just the same. You've still watching that flank 1 versus 4 with 40 seconds. Diffuser's out of his control. He's being swung at the same time. Asian gets a little overzealous. He'll fall, but the castle here for the immediate refrag, at least a few seconds later. There it is. There's 4 for SBL, and just nothing that Outlast seems to be able to do about it. The only round they've picked up arguably still could have gone SBL's way. That's been this half thus far.
Yeah, Outlast tried to hit the gas, hit the pedal, because they realized a couple of players were still dislodged in their positioning up there on the top floor. I think they did have the information to properly attribute that there were flanks happening in that moment. And I think they decided to just try to half-ass it, for lack of a better way to say it, and hit the site. And unfortunately, it caught them off. They weren't able to get anything out of it. No kills their way, no troll, nothing. They end up getting dusted. They get shut down by the smoke gas grenades coming from Poison's pocket. And now we go back to storage and control, where Team SBL try to end this half up 5-1 with a huge advantage and in a very solid position. I think it's very doable. I don't... I agree with you, Dan, earlier where you said, I don't really like Outlast attacks. I don't either. At least the way that they've been so far. And it's not that I don't really like their attacks. I feel like they've been very, heavily dimensional and heavily focused on rotations, which can work against some teams, but hasn't with the way that SBL has been playing. But also, I feel like SBL's defenses are just strong. They're playing together. All their shooters are shooting. And that's the biggest factor that I feel like Outlast haven't been able to do this time around, is shut down the guns by working each player individually because of SBL's teamwork and the angles that they establish and the team play and the spots that they play to help aid each other in their positions.
So, a Selma thrown on the top floor connector wall and into both sides of connector to open things up and at least give a way in. It has been impact tricked, so the second of those 2 Somas did not go off. Somehow a lost fight for Vipoa, even though he was the first one to draw, and he is completely forced away, and Rice gets out a lot.
2 minutes on this clock, already the opening kill lost, second consecutive round where they lose the Finka in the first minute and change. And Outlast just don't have that same flexibility nor variability about their attack that we've seen in rounds prior, or in some cases, maps prior. They do, however, pick up Asian, so there's something to recover, make it 2, as Rice falls just the same.
I don't know how SBL are being forced out of these comfortable positions that they set themselves up last time around up here on the top floor. They just hung out. They sat there, they waited, and Outlast all tried to basically walk through the electrical door by throwing a million flashbangs. They blocked it off with one Kiba barrier, and they basically won the round from there. This time around, SBL, they get too aggressive, they get too active, they're feeling confidence in themselves, and Outlast have changed up their take. They're going for a more lateral focus here, as Austin will hop on in and try to force his dues in through the control and storage hallway. Poison will gas off, trying to stop Outlast from working their way in closer towards that storage site, but there's still plenty avenues of access up above. Spiff has positioned himself close in IT, and Rai has no idea. I mean, he is a dead man, and there he goes. Spiff at least evens the man count, but still, Outlast not in a terrible spot here.
No. Poison is the only one on site. Both of his teammates are up above, and I think they've given up the other site. Yeah, they have. There's just a Thermite, or sorry, I believe a Twitch just walking through the site. Poison's extremely isolated as of right now. There's a shot actually from the ace. I went over 2. And Nick, having to recover, so too is Spiff. They thought they had so much control, they end up giving most of it away, and it leaves Nick at a 1 versus 3. We've seen a clutch from him before. He finds one, knows where the second is, seemingly knows where the third, but he could not find the shot on either of the remaining 2, and Zonky will close things out with a 4-17. It is a recovered 4-2 half, but an extremely labored one for Outlast. Regardless, they're still in a decent position to bring back laps.
Outlast have just been so good at finding those gaps, Dan. I don't really know how they've been doing it. And even then, like, I feel like Poison was just begging for help in the site. He's like, guys, I need help. Guys, they're definitely walking at me. And then by the time he ever got any sort of help, it was just way too late. No vertical angles were leveraged. I mean, you can play vertical above that entire site, both storage and control. That's why it's more of that tertiary bomb site rather than like a primary, right? But there was just no vertical play at all from either of these, from the defensive side, from SBL. And so that's why Outlast were able to just walk through. They're like, oh, there's no vertical holes here holding me here. There's no vertical holes holding this door entry. Okay, I'm just going to walk through the entire bomb site because we know it's clear, because we've done our job. We've droned. We know where the other 2 players are that are above. And we understand that there's only 1 player inside of the site. And they take advantage of that. They walk. They get the picks that they need to drive themselves into a round win, giving themselves plenty of opportunity while flipping the cards over now that they have their defensive side.
Poison's picking up the Montaigne for the first time since it went horribly wrong back on Chalet. I'd also like to point out that Outlast does seem to be comfortable sticking with a similar operator composition to what we saw back on Chalet. Instead, of course, they're subbing out the Fenrir because he's banned, but they're bringing in the Azami instead. Tubarao being locked in may be able to cut off this Maverick if you find the timing. You throw a Zoto canister, freeze him in the process, and try and find a kill, but no, instead they'll just take out the Electroclaw and give their team full availability to open it with Selmas or otherwise, should they want to do so. This is not a bad position for SBL by any means. Bryce, just wait 2 seconds.
Wait, I thought the freeze wasn't supposed to let it work.
No, it works, but just takes more.
Oh, does it just take more? Okay, I was like, I thought it wasn't supposed to counter it at all. Okay. I was like so confused that his torch was still working. But it seems like Team SBL, with Poison, foreshadowing his entry in through lower warehouse and potentially up those stairs, want to go for a garage side attack where they're going to put a lot of pressure on Vipoa, who's currently situated at the top of rafters. These Kiba barriers will be taken out by a couple of Rotero drones, and slowly but surely force Outlast out of this comfortable position and extension up on the top floor. Asian has worked their way in down below. They might try to find a pick or two through some of these vertical angles that have been pre-established by Outlast. The defense actually making these holes. Asian's able to line up, sit there, and wait for some timing. He might end up finding a pick of his own in a reversal.
The only person I want to watch right now is watch Zonky. Zonky's currently rotating the bottom floor all the way around this map, around towards where Asian is right now. It seems like SBL think they've forced Outlast to fully tunnel and turtle themselves. That's not the case. And SBL, again, could have a false sense of security. We saw this back in that chaotic round on Chalet where Poison thought he had everything going for him. That's not the case. And Zonky, the lone player directly off a site, ends up finding a kill back towards it, puts up a barricade, and can completely retreat. This is a great position for Outlast, and they take out 2 Selmas. No, make it just 1 in the process.
But they freeze the wall, and those bandit wires, once they unfreeze, will freeze back up, keeping the wall closed, at least in partial matters. Poison will walk at top of Waterfall, notices the Warden, and a couple players actually still positioned here. Poison has to try to save his teammate of Rice, who takes the engagement, but ends up winning the engagement.
No way.
Rice gets a couple of picks now in top of Waterfall, and Poison will wrap back over to Raptors. Nick, though, has to spot the head of Rai. He does, as the Bandit misses their shots. And now, all of a sudden, 2 members left alive. Vipoa and Austin trying to hold down the site. They've got a Nitrocell if they can position it properly. Vipoa with the swing takes out Nick. There has to be excellent coverage from the side of Rice. He gets down all the way to low HP. Austin gets the trade. And we've seen this before.
Oh, no.
It's Poison in a 1-on-2. Does he get the kill? He finishes off Austin. And all he has to do, please, Poison, just stay up with your shield. Hold against the Azami. That's all you've got to do. Please don't get knifed. Don't let it happen again. Oh, it's so close. But if he can get to this doorway, he can be good. Just don't get too far away.
Get barricaded.
The Azami tries to barricade, baiting Poison off. But Vipoa just running around. He has to try to go for the counter defuse. No Kiba barriers to assist him. And Poison should have a pretty easy free kill. There it is. This time he's able to do it. It's unlike Chalet, as Team SBL will take their first attacking round win.
And it is a near mirror to what happened last time.
I was terrified.
A Cade with a C4, still alive, trying to play to take him out. Instead, they're downed by his teammate. The coverage was there. A direct 1-for-1 trade, by the way. A down for a kill. I don't know how that works. Please don't try to explain it to me. But SBL, finally Poison wins his 1v1 on the Montagne. And good forethought to actually take care of the Cade and make sure he's not picked up. If you're in a 1v2 there and the Cade actually has time to pick up the C4, there's no way you are ever winning that on Montagne. Sorry, just not happening. But making it a 1v1 and having the diffuser already down makes it so much easier. That I was so scared. I thought we were going to have a repeat. I was getting deja vu.
I thought the shield and Waterfall was going to screw Poison out. I thought he was going to get stuck on it, and the defender was going to get around him. But he just barely avoided it. I mean, he got stuck on it, clipped into it a little bit, but it was just good enough. He was just able to avoid it. And that puts SBL up into a really successful position. That sets them up to potentially close out this map rather sooner than later. Right, only 2 attacking rounds needed now on Night Haven Labs, a map that, as you said, Dan, and mentioned, that it does tend to be on the defender side, but since SVL has already locked up one of their at least 2, if not 3, necessary defensive, or attacking rounds, rather, then, you feel a little more comfortable. You can settle in a little bit more, and Outlast now, in this deficit that they put themselves in, now, all of a sudden, the pressure falls onto their shoulders, right? They did their job on their attack, but all of a sudden, SBL has already took a leg up on their end, and now you have to work even harder for it as Outlast to try to push either for a map win or for overtime at the minimum.
Notably enough, Outlast has made very big adjustments to their defensive composition. Back on our previous round, we saw basically the exact same comp that we saw on most of what was Chalet. But here, that's just not the case. They've basically pulled a full overhaul minus the Legion. And the Legion's dead anyway, so that's completely null and void. Asian finds a second, so basically the composition's null and void. But luckily, at least a kill is recovered. Zonky, however, at this point, forced to lock in place. Re-engagement by Rice, but without a flash. He knows he's there. Why not set it up and make the flash a catalyst to a kill? You have secondary utility. Please use it.
Yeah, I hate to call it someone who's been in Pro League when I haven't, but I mean, that's just a troll play. Like, that is just, it's just a lack of discipline, truthfully, by Rice. Thankfully, Poison is able to recover the bounds, notices that Zonky has tried to reaggress that position at the top of Waterfall, gets the pick, and keeps SBL in a man advantage.
Look at the time. It was 1:20 when it became a 3v2.
Okay.
This is something that we saw back in our previous game. taking way too long to capitalize off of direct off-site control and not turning it into direct aggression efforts. Keep an eye on that time as this round continues, because by no means is it over. Outlast, let Juve get back to the site. So it is a true 2v3 on and around the site, even with this vertical control being established by the Buck and arguably the IQ, should they go for those vertical breach charges as well.
There's 0 drones left for Team SBL. They are walking in blind. Very winnable position here for Outlast if they're able to play their cards right. SBL, they're going to have to face check everything. They're going to have to play with their guns. They're going to have to hope that they make the right call. The gas and Toxic Babe slowly stops them from making a push, but Spiff from above finds the kill on a Vipoa. They now know where Juve has positioned himself, but he gets the down on the poison. He's in a 1v1. Spiff, though, the best gunner, arguably, for Team SBL this far in Spring Burst, gets the clutch. After his teammate goes down, he'll drop down the hatch, take the engagement. He doesn't care about picking up poison because he has the information to get the kill and acts just fast enough to find the win and secure match and series point for Team SBL, putting Outlast on the brink of elimination.
Notably, SBL did not have access to the diffuser at that point either. That was the main concern as it stood. Spiff walks in there. It is kill or lose immediately. There's no secondary ability to just plant or get that down as required. That was a very concerning last couple seconds. But SBL, they have quite literal T1 experience, and they're taking full advantage of it. Much more calm in these later round scenarios. That's what we've seen from most of this game, barring a couple defensive rounds for Outlast back on Chalet. It has been when crunch time comes along, SBL will lock in a few more times than not. And again, except for the weird round where Austin finds and Poison lose a 1v1.
I feel like Outlast on Labs here just have not competed the way they did on Chalet. On Chalet, it felt like
5 seconds left before
they shot back 10 times better. It felt like they were just 10 times more in the fight. Vipoa has been rather quiet. Austin has been a little bit quiet. Zonky has still been doing his thing. You've been about the same as where he was on Chalet, and Rai is definitely not performing as well as he did on the previous map. So there are a few things where, yeah, you could argue that Outlast just have kind of been outclassed on this map, truthfully, in gun skill. And if you're not winning your gunfights, you're definitely not going to win a map. Not against a good team like Team SBL, who not only can get you with their gun skill, but also can do it with their coordination and strategy with someone like Poison at the helm and Rice with really good supporting information as well.
So, Maverick being brought once more. Outlast, seemingly without a direct bit of contention for it. And you're running Cade Bandit, but a lot of that utility gets directly countered. It doesn't seem like they have anything else to recover that ability. I'd say if SBL right now don't clear out most of these hard breaches early enough, this is just not an easy round. They just shoot their own electric law? I think they did. They just shot their own electric law. Okay, well, there's a free wall to open Mason.
Free wall. Easy as
Oh
that,
my
I
god.
guess.
No, he grabbed it and then backed up, reinforced the wall, and threw it on the second one.
Very smart.
Makes a lot more sense.
Makes it more difficult to get that secondary wall opened up, especially with the threat of a nitro cell down below. If you don't have that control, or a nitro cell over the wall is also possible. Thatcher, though, Spiff, the hands of the EMP, could deny this trick on the wall if they double EMP it, but only one EMP would have not let that happen. Both EMPs go through, but Rai finds a nitro cell on the Poison. As I mentioned, that nitro down below could be so deadly, and it is. Although the wall has been opened up, Team SBL are in a significant man disadvantage and HP disadvantage. Asian low HP, Spiff not really looking much better, and Nick is somewhere outside of IT trying to work his way solo into top garage. This is not adding up to be a solid take here for Team SBL. Nick finds one, but Austin gets that pick back on the Spiff, and unfortunately there's just not much here that the rest of SBL members can do.
It just took too long. That development was really well read by Outlast as well. You're talking about that C4 being deadly from below. When you telegraph your push, that's what's going to happen. Legion Mine kills Nick. That, I think, is a first for me on this season, but a kill nonetheless. And a very clean defensive round for Outlast. They really didn't make any mistakes. I was thinking to myself, why are you just giving up connector? But they gave up connector just to take away that potential and bait them into utility. There was a plan. It just seemed like SBL was not as aware as they probably could have been. That is something that will allow Outlast not back into the game by any means. It's still a 3-round game, but they've got at least a foot halfway through the.
Attackers need to locate
I'm
and
not
defuse
gonna
bomb.
toot my own horn, but I was so right that round, and I'm so proud. I'm so happy.
You should toot your own.
I'm so happy. It's not often that I'm right about what a team's doing or and reading teams' plays and telegraphing them, but that nitro cell down below just seemed way too obvious of an option considering how much ground Outlast freely gave Team SBL, and that's what I like about Outlast. They change things up. They get creative. They beat their opponents into these plays, and it does work. And you see it work against some of the highest level teams that we have here. And that's one thing that I do want to commend Outlast on is they're smart players. They're intellectual, and as long as they can get themselves as more consistent gunners, I expect them to be competing even deeper with some of these teams. I mean, you saw that they can do it. They just have to get the consistency built up to make sure that is happening week to week on that basis.
SBL bringing once more the Thatcher combo with the Thermite, but Spiff on to the Capitao. This is something we've seen before. Capitao back on Chalet. It was a little less successful, but really set up their round in easy terms for them to take care of. In this instance, that utility may not be as directly impactful because of how spacious the bottom floor is, but it by no means will allow Outlast to just rest on their laurels, play around that same level of utility. That's a misclick. Nick wastes a flash, but EMP is going to be thrown through. They don't know if a Cade or a Mute or something similar is being brought, so they will try to play around that. I don't know if that Vulcan canister is going to be popped. No, it doesn't. That could be a problem later down the line.
Yeah, that actually hurts Team SBL more than helps them.
Yeah.
I mean, since they didn't go for just a straight up, hey, we're going to run through the wall type of play. It seems very minimal, though, from Team SBL. They're just opening up doors and windows and adding all this phantom pressure for these members that are above. And more than likely, Spiff is going to use those Capitao smoke bolts to try to block off these upwards line of sight angles. They've got this garage wall open just to make sure that no one can get onto that warehouse hatch. And assuming that, it seems like it's just going to be a simple walk in with the OSA, try to plant near that Animus door, just barely in the bomb site, and see if you can't get away with a sneaky little play here by Team SBL.
Oh, I like this. They're pincering the top floor. The problem is, you lose Rice right off the bat. Not the end of the world by any means. You do find a recovering kill, but this 4 versus 4, we'll say pseudo for the time being, as it's now confirmed +1. Outlast needs to recover more than they really can at this point. Smoking off that plant, they have no way to see where the diffuser's going down, and no info that it is actually going through. They will try and force him off of the position. Diffuser will not immediately go down. I don't know what SBL is waiting for. Finally, they'll try to initiate it. That top-down angle ends up costing the Outlast defense. They try to recover without picking up their teammate, and Spiff just ready for it. Utility was a difference maker, and SBL take the series 2-0.
SBL, really solid play through that second map. Chalet, yeah, it was a little bit shaky, but on Nighthaven, they look locked in and really, really strong against the Outlast roster. They just read them perfectly. They seem to play around them just beautifully. And I was truthfully mesmerized by the gameplay from Team SBL. I thought that everything they did was very smart, logical, and just, in general, solid. And I expect to see that as they've solidified themselves into playoffs here for the XGS Spring Burst that will be taking place next week. So I'm excited to see who SBL get to face. Of course, 4 teams were invited. 4 teams had to fight their way on through, and Team SBL will join as the final team to be into the XGS Spring Burst playoffs.
Yeah, by no means was it easy. This was still a very laborious Nighthaven Labs, despite the scoreline you currently see. Their second half looked really clean, though. I gotta say kudos, or credit where credit is due. They did have an amazing attack in comparison to what I was honestly expecting. I was saying this could probably go to overtime again, but it does not. SBL are clean and clear to take it away, and they go up 2-0. They take it, they move on to playoffs with some confidence to work with as well. And the team seemed to move into a little bit more of a rhythm. Yeah, the first half of Chalet wasn't the cleanest. It went 3-3 on the split. The second half, they didn't look great as well, but they had some very good moments and flashes of brilliance. They turned OT clean, and they turned Nighthaven. It just seemed like they needed, we'll say, like 3/4 of a map to warm up, and after that, they seemed fine to go clean and clean.
Seemed a little bit like that. I'm a little sad we didn't get to see Border, which is typically a gun-heavy run-out fest, with both of these teams who seemed rather strat-oriented and just try to go for execute with a 5-on-5 or in some sort of manner in that way. But, take it or leave it. Nighthaven, I thought, played out well. Chalet was an excellent match between these two teams. And I'm excited for the future of both of these rosters, truthfully. If SBL do end up staying together and none of them are picked up into Pro League, obviously I wish many of these players to get picked up. I think it's about time that some of them do. But, should they not, it would be nice to at least see them carry their way on through. We get to talk to one of the members who potentially has a shot in the future. It's Poison here from Team SBL, the IGL and the captain. Poison, absolute wonderful game to watch. Couple of questions for you. Number one, you guys take a long time on the attack, but so do Outlast. What is that similar playstyle that both of you guys have that ended up in so many of these close rounds tonight?
I think just naturally, like, my style as like a player, IGL, whatever, is usually attack, like more cautious, more thorough. Like, just usually that's like the approach I go for. So I think that's just kind of what ends up, like, just because we're going slow doesn't really mean we're not doing anything or we don't know what we're doing. Just usually we don't have the red boxes on everyone that the observers has. So we usually take a lot more time to like set up our flanks, like set up walls, especially in like a meta where there's a lot of util, like Fenrir's, Tubs, zombies, like,
right, yeah.
Just lots of stuff to go through, lots of stuff to account for. So it takes a while for us to account for all that, but yeah, we're just naturally slow. So
yeah, I think your guys' information game was really strong, and so props to you guys on having a strong information basis, because Outlast tried to kind of push and pull with you guys. They'd send a random flank once in a while. They tried to make a hero play here and there. How were you guys able to attest to that for a team that made quite a lot of adaptations, something that not a lot of teams can do in the competitive side?
We stayed composed the whole game. We were prepared, like, even though, yeah, like you said, they were trying to like throw wrenches in our plan. Like that one round on Chalet, our plan was obviously to thermite the main wall at the end in OT and glass through the wall, but we couldn't get the wall just because Tub, Cade, very strong. We weren't able to problem solve that.
Yeah.
But instead of just like giving up and like just sort of like just walking into our death, getting lazy, like we were able to calm down, like make the call to go blue side, and we still made it work. And it was just everyone was calm, even though that they like put something our way. We were able to just like calm down, reset, rally the troops, 3-2-1 it, set up what we were trying to do, and then it worked out really well for us. So yeah, that was a good round for us for sure.
I'm sure you're ready for this question. The Montaigne play, the one that was unfortunate on Chalet, but then you bounced back on Nighthaven at least.
Yeah,
I guess. Did you play it different? Was it just kind of lucky or whatever, or what's the case? Just unfortunate on the Chalet.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just sometimes I don't know. I not knifed to my side. Like obviously I'm trying to like turn my shield like to him, and he just got me. I don't know. Monty 1v1s are always just like a weird thing in Rainbow Six Siege. It's usually the Monty
like
does
so
win.
easy, but
usually the Monty does
yeah.
win, but yeah, sometimes like it looks like you're like good with Monty, then you get knifed, or it can be weird sometimes. But yeah, I got the bounce back. So that's what
yeah.
so.
Well, since you guys are locked into playoffs, what are your expectations? Do you guys expect to go through, win the whole thing? Obviously, maybe a little bit more of a shaky group stage than you expected, but how do you see the rest of this roster and rest of the spring burst turning out for you guys?
Yeah, we're confident. I think we kind of figured out some issues we're having, and we're confident going to the playoffs. So, we have an experienced team. We have our goal is to win the league. That's going to be our expectation. We'll see what happens.
There you go. Simple as that. Well, Poison, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us, and we'll see you in playoffs at the end of this week.
All right, sounds good. Good night.
Cool.
Well, maybe not an hour and a half to talk to the IGL, but it's certainly a nice couple minutes to get the lowdown. I'm actually very happy with how at least Poison broke that down. I love the opening part of that. You talked about them taking forever and a day on the attacking side. It was spoken as well as possible, and I think we conveyed that a couple times. Yeah, they're taking forever. It is a 3-minute round. They're not initiating their actual push onto the site until maybe 30, 20 seconds. That is 2.5 to 2 minutes and 40 seconds worth of time spent clearing the rest of the map, setting up flanks, setting up everything else. But we have the X-ray vision. We know, hey, nobody's sitting top floor. They don't. They actually have to take the time to discern that in the moment rather than just rush the site when they don't have that information. It is the information you know versus the information you don't. They want to make sure the information you don't is very negligible to the round outcome. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of the meta that we're in, right? With the heavy defensive presence, you have to take so long. And I was kind of trying to bait Poison almost into that answer, because that's the answer I kind of expected was, it takes a long time to clear the map because there's so much crap you have to deal with as an attacker. And that's why we're in that defensive side of meta, back to kind of that 20-second super strong utility meta. That's why you see a team like SBL. Wow. They used to be CLB, then they went to SBL, and it messes with my head. Whatever.
Too many letters.
Whatever they're called, yeah. Too many letter acronyms. Can we just be like real team names now instead of letters or whatever? Like, throw that stuff out the window. Regardless, my point being, that's why you see teams like them with strong IGLs as Poison himself be so successful, especially ran in metas like this. But that being said, that ends the group stage, Dan. That's it. We got playoffs. I'm excited. Obviously, here's Group B. We've got Coastal Gaming and Bros Without Hose being in that final decider match. And Valkyrie had set themselves all the way through. I was like reading the bracket, and I was like, wait a second, this looks weird. But Valkyrie, I believe that's JJ's team, right? That made it all the way through and into playoffs in a very close match against Coastal Gaming. And then also now our decider match, we're Coastal Gaming. We're fortunately able to bounce back and get themselves into the playoffs. And then on the other side for Group A, you obviously just watched one of those promotion matches, right? You watched Team SBL take down Outlast, but you also had Osiris take down Team SBL in the previous promotion match round. So Team SBL, Osiris, Valkyrie, and Coastal Gaming are your 4 teams that went through the group stage and found themselves in the playoffs, and now they get to take on the 4 invited teams, in which we get to see more teams, more gameplay, where those teams that were invited, they've got a bit of advantage. They've got some VOD, they've got the week to study and prepare. I'm excited. I think that playoffs are going to be a hell of a lot of fun for the Spring Burst.
Yeah, my favorite part about the entire event thus far is that usually going into an event, you think to yourself, oh yeah, here's a group, this is the group of death, this is a group where you'd have a reasonable and better shot of it. I don't think that was the case this week. You looked at both groups and said, probably all 8 of these teams discount Wanted Goons a little bit because they struggled basically from the start. But even Wanted Goons towards the later stages of their best of 3, they had a shot to come back. All 8 teams coming into these GSL qualifiers had a concerted shot of not only making playoffs, but down the line, some of these teams have a very decent way of making themselves through playoffs and towards semifinals or grand finals. By no means is this a done and dusted type of group stage where, oh yeah, they're all going to go play invited teams that are miles better than that. Yeah, a couple of teams may be better than that, but it comes with the invite. They deserve an invite for a reason.
We spent the weekend deciding which 4 teams weren't good enough to make the cut to get into XGS playoffs, but now we will take the week, take a little bit of time off, and when we get back around, I believe on Friday, will be our quarterfinal matches, and I'm excited for those. Thursday? Oh, am I wrong? It's Thursday. Sorry. My brain hurts. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's right. Best of 3s for all of them. Thanks, Dan, for reminding my terrible brain as I get ready for the work week. It's almost my bedtime, but we'll see you guys in the end. Enjoy your spring break if you are on it. I'm sure that many of you are, of course, in the spring burst. Dan, obviously, back in the basement. It's been a while since you've been over there, but it's nice to it's refreshing to see that background for you again. Anyway, we'll let you guys go. You got a dartboard? That's it. We'll let you guys go. We'll see you all on Thursday with the first quarterfinal match for the XGS Spring Burst.